people that have kids that are talking about it, maybe a coworker, or maybe your pet that has got an issue that is bothering them and they need to have a solution and they just can't find it. Well, you may be in luck for tonight because we're going to be talking about the emotion code and how that can help you with whatever is ailing you. And tonight we are going to work with Lucy. I'm going to show you a little picture of her. This is Lucy and I out on the front porch. And so Lucy is one of my rescues, and she has big, long hound dog ears, and she has been having some issues with her ears. They've been a little itchy, and it's also one of her favorite things to make her, I think, feel loved is that when I pay attention to her ears. So I am Holly Pitus, and you are here with me at Get Feeling Better, and we're talking about the emotion code and the body code. And I am just going to hide this little stream here at the bottom. And so if you are new to the emotion code or the body code, I will just give you a quick rundown. It's really a fantastic system for helping you to be relieved of these issues that might be bothering you. And that can be a physical issue like a neck pain or head pain or foot pain. It can also be an annoying habit like emotional eating or smoking or some other bad habit that your spouse or housemates have told you that you have. And, or even things, at work. Maybe you are bashful about speaking up and you've got really great ideas and other people are taking credit for the ideas because you just aren't able to speak up for yourself. So that's often rooted in some creative insecurity, and that's something that the emotion code can work on really easily and really beautifully. And using Lucy as an example tonight, now obviously she's a dog. She can't really talk, although we do have a good connection. And if you have a pet, you know that you can understand what your pet is telling you. And your pet can understand you and your feelings and your moods and all of that. So if you are watching tonight, I would love to have you say hello. Let me know where you are visiting from. That is always a fun thing to do. And so let me tell you a little bit more about the emotion code, just if you are new to it. So it was developed by Dr. Bradley Nelson. He is a retired now, a holistic chiropractor. And so he was working with people, giving them their physical adjustments, and there would always still be something sort of nagging at that person. So they could have these adjustments. Maybe they came into him for, low back pain. Things would adjust just fine. And yet this pain would continue to return. And so eventually he was able to decipher that their emotions were getting trapped in their energy system of their body. And since this issue from their past was not addressed fully, it would show up in the form of, in that example, a low back pain. And so these emotions that we have, they get caught in our subconscious, and it can be from any kind of event that we've had in our life. Our subconscious is just exactly like our hard drive on our computer, that it's running in the background all the time. Everything that we have experienced is recorded there. So for example, with your computer, just because you delete a file doesn't mean that it's actually gone. It is still in your computer hardware somewhere running around. You click on the wrong link and you get some kind of bug that can interfere with how your computer is operating. And it's the same thing with our emotional senses of our body. So whether it's our physical body or just our feelings or our interpretations of things, we can get this little bug in our system and it can continue to throw us off. And we aren't actually recording new information properly then because it's being distorted by this old bug. And you have it. You know other people who do. You have people that you work with or that you live with or that you're friends with, and it's you see these patterns repeating, and it's just because there's something just sort of stuck in a loop. And it's kind of like when people say, I feel like I'm going around in circles. Well, yeah, you very likely are, because there is something that didn't get processed properly and we need to discover it. That's where the emotion code comes in. And the other really nice thing about it, this is done on a kind of a quantum physics level, is done through biofeedback. So we can do it online. We don't have to be in the same room. So that makes it so much easier in terms of connecting, because we can connect all over the world. And the sessions are very confidential. And even if you have something that is very difficult for you to talk about, you don't have to actually retell the story of some sort of trauma or really horrible event that you may have experienced. So if you had been in a really scary accident or something like that, or a victim of a crime, or a really bitter divorce or something, you don't have to go back and tell the story. You just have to say, here's my symptom that's showing up. This is how it presents itself for me. And it could be things like, biting your fingernails, or sleepless nights, or, not speaking up at work, or not getting your stuff done. And so we're able to identify it. It's actually a pretty quick and easy system. I use the emotion code chart. Let me see if I can actually find my graphic of it, because I know that it's on here. Here we go. So the emotion code chart, and it has this list of emotions, and they're common words. They're things like abandonment or depression or guilt, hatred, failure, helplessness, creative insecurity. So all of these things that you probably use these words in your common descriptions of how things are going for you. And by actually identifying the emotion, identifying kind of how it has come to you, the severity level, things like that, we're able to go through it and release it, and you will be feeling better. It sounds very simple, and actually it is very simple. As you notice, I've got my badges up there. I am a certified emotion code and certified in body code. And what that says is that I've just taken this special training with Dr. Nelson, learned the system, learned how to go through it efficiently and effectively, and be able to really work to the best of my ability for helping you solve the things that you want to solve. So what I've done with Lucy is, she's lucky she lives with me. And so as I notice things with her, even, I'm able to go in and do some treatments with her. Doing it with animals is also another way to illustrate that we don't have to have the story. We don't have to retell the story. We don't have to know all of the details. We just need to know the thing that is in annoyance, and then we are able to get rid of it. So I had done that earlier today with Lucy. So she, if you have dogs, some dogs just like to have their ears scratched because it feels good. And some dogs can have some just real issues with their ears, with infections, or they need creams, or their ears turn red. People have the same thing. So cats can have it, horses can have it, anything with ears have an issue with them. So what I had done with Lucy is we connected. I, as her person, I'm able to give permission to be having her worked on. So whether I'm working on it or if I was working with a different practitioner, I would be able to say, yes, I give my permission. And that gives the okay to be able to question her energy field. And now we're not going to know specifically what triggered her past to have this issue with her ears. So that's, again, a good illustration that we can work with kids who aren't able to really verbalize or speak. Even, can work with really small children. And we can work with animals, whether they be cats, dogs, birds, horses, any kind of reptile, anything that you may have as a pet. I've even worked with a lady that had pet rats, and she loved her little rats, and they were definitely her pets. And so there was some issues going on with them, and we were able to solve them. So we don't need to know the story. So it's I think a little more peaceful for your heart that you don't have to go back over this story. And there are also ways that if you're having issues with particular people, you don't necessarily have to name those people out loud. I would go through that in a private session. And so what I can do today is demonstrate what I have done with Lucy. But when we do a private session together, then we can go into a lot more depth and be able to go through a lot more of those little things that you want to fix up or tie up. In a way, it's kind of like cleaning your attic. If there's stuff up there or stuff in your garage, your basement, wherever your storeroom is, that you've got there, you've got it in boxes. Maybe it's in boxes, maybe it's just tossed in a corner. And as the pile grows, you kind of forget what's in there. And you think, maybe I have that, maybe I don't. And there might be things that you have totally forgotten about. And then what happens is when you start going through them, it's like, oh, I completely forgot about this. So you might think that you have solved some of the issues from things long ago, the heartbreak you may have had when you were in second grade, or the hurt feelings you had when you were 5 and on a playground and someone was mean to you, or maybe something that you're maybe 75 years old now, and you went through the death of someone close to you when you were 40, and you think that you've dealt with it. You think that you've solved all of it, or solved all the problems, or moved past it. And a lot of times these things can just sort of latch onto you and hang around and be obstacles. So just like that clutter that you have in whatever storeroom, and it's like you open up a box and you say, oh, well, this thing, I had no idea this was still in here. I'd forgotten that I have it, but yet you are still holding on to it, and it is still taking up space in your storeroom. So the emotion code is a great way to clear your storeroom and make room for all kinds of new things. So very simply, what I did, I start off with water. So in our session together, I would suggest that you bring a big glass of water, and I'm actually going to take a sip right now. Having the energy systems flowing well is something that the water does for us. It just makes everything a little bit cleaner and crisper. And then, of course, having your permission. If you are the parent or guardian for a minor child, then you are able to give permission, or for your own pet. Can we work on the dog that lives down the street? No, we would need to talk to that actual family. And I do a lot of work with rescue animals too. And when a dog is in rescue, it is there's actually a named person that is the custodian of the dog at that time, or horse, or whatever animal. Every animal under the sun can be in a rescue or foster system. And so as long as you are, considered the legal guardian of that animal at that time, or person, you're able to give the okay for going ahead. And so, if you've got an issue with your spouse or significant other, we can work on you. But your spouse or significant other would have to come on their own. And those appointments are usually done individually. So we work with each person. I would get together with each person individually. And it can be really magnificent. It's clears the air. It gets rid of all the old junk that doesn't belong there anymore, and makes way for a much smoother relationship going forward. Then the biofeedback part, I do muscle testing so we can ask yes and no questions. So again, it is not invasive. It is not it's not personal. It doesn't dive into anything that you wouldn't want to say on camera or online. We do typically meet by Zoom, or just easiest by Zoom. And so that way you can give me immediate feedback in terms of how the session is going. If I know with one session I was working with the lady and she had some foot discomfort. So we'd worked on a couple of things, and I asked her to get up and walk around and see if her foot felt any different. And she needed to reach for something. And she was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I haven't been able to put my arm over my head in months. She was only able to lift her arm up part way. And the stuff we had been doing with the body code had worked on, we were aiming for her feet, but we also were able to clear things up at her shoulder. And she had remembered that she had broken her collarbone, and she's like, oh, this is, something that had triggered this arm problem. So it's amazing what can happen when we have the exchange of you're being able to give me your responses for what you're feeling. And you do usually feel a little something during a session. You might feel some tingling, you might yawn, you might sneeze, you might cough a little bit, you might start giggling, you might just feel really pleasant. It's all kinds of little things that you might feel, and it's just you're tingly, you have this energy kind of moving around, and it sort of opens the flow for you. So you do definitely feel it. A lot of people say that they sleep really well afterwards. Sometimes people might get a little tearful, or be just a little sensitive for a day or two. And that's just because everything is readjusting, and you're getting rid of that old stuff and making way for the new. So you are able to definitely make an appointment with me. You found me here, which is great. And so you can either link through my Facebook page or my YouTube, and you will find me, of course, at hollypitus.com. And I do have the links. I'm going to put those up down here. But let me tell you what I did for Lucy. So connected with her, as I mentioned, she's a rescue. And so I have no idea what happened to her first maybe 5 years. That was the guess of the age that she was when we met and she was adopted into our family. And I do know that when she was found, she was around 30 pounds. And now that she's been living with us for a few years, she is a good weight for her is more like 70 pounds. So she was definitely skin and bones. And so she has some untold things in her past. And so again, this is one of the ways that the emotion code is just so incredibly wonderful with working. So what I did is I had connected with her. And I went through the emotion code chart. I have the one that I work with right here. I like to have it right in front of me so that I can look. And what I do is I ask what kind of, what kind of things that we can, what emotions are we looking for? And so it's, first we get the connection, which is a simple, can we connect? And then is the emotion, is there a trapped emotion? Is it in column A? Is it in column B? which row is it in. And I narrowed it down to having it be in column A, row 2. And the items that are in that section are, I would like to show it to you again. So much easier when we look at it together. Here we go. So in 2A, it is anxiety, despair, disgust, nervousness, worry. And these were actually in the form of something that we call a heart wall. So it's not just this trapped emotion that wasn't fully processed, but this was actually a heart wall, which is a more significant kind of emotion. And if you imagine a wall, like a wall of bricks, and each, one of them is named anxiety, and another one is despair, and another one is disgust, and these bricks just build up and wall around the heart, which is your emotional center. And so it sounds pretty likely for an animal that was found nearly starved and uncared for, that probably she did feel some anxiety, and she probably was in a state of despair and disgust with her situation and nervousness, and then also worry. So I was able to go through with her and release these trapped emotions of this heart wall. And heart walls can also be just, sort of there, but they can also be like a super protective form that we call a hidden heart wall. So it's generally created in a time when you're trying to protect yourself. Your subconscious is actually trying to protect you and thinks it's doing you a favor by sort of shoring things up and not opening you up to hurt or difficulties. And so what happens though is that, that might be helpful for you in, within the throes of the situation. So like in Lucy's case, it's better that she wasn't so nervous, that she could try to find some way somehow or another that she was found and was rescued. And so, even though she was likely worried, she was still able to go to the safety of, whoever these original people were that rescued her. Thank you, original people. And so whereas the heart wall was designed intentionally originally to shore her up and protect her, after a while, a wall is never good in any kind of relationship. It's not good to have that wall around yourself to sort of keep in these feelings of worry and nervousness and things. So very simply, I identified these, went through the system of releasing them, and what do you know? Lucy's not scratching her ears so much. She's not, shaking her head, which is another sign that dogs or some animals will do to sort of signal there's a tickle in their ear. Or even people do that too. You just sort of, all of a sudden tickle your ear. You can be talking to somebody and you just sort of shudder like, whoo, my ear was itching me, or tickling, or sometimes people have what they'll call like tinnitus, where it's like a ringing in the ears, or almost like what people will describe as being like an allergic reaction. They'll have an event, they'll go outside or be around flowers, or, go to somebody's, an old friend's house or something. It's like, oh, every time I go in there, it's like I must be allergic to something because my ears start itching. So the emotion code is something wonderful for trying to identify these events or items that are hanging around and causing you some difficulties. And then they're just very easily released. And then the amazing thing is that they're just gone. It's something, it's amazing. One of the fun things that I do too is work on, we call it food deleting. It's, breaking up with bread for for people that want to lower their carbs or just, give up some sort of addictive snack food that they're indulging in or overindulging in. And it's just kind of fun because people can say, oh, well, I wanted to give up potato chips. And so we can work on it. There's a series of questions that I go through for brands and when do you have the potato chips and things like that to kind of identify really what that trigger is. And then we release the emotions that are connected with it. And then suddenly you find that you're just not reaching for that bag of potato chips any longer. And then you'll see the potato chips and you'll think, well, I always used to like those. And so you have them. And then they just don't have the same appeal to you any longer. So they just become like this non-issue. And I know it sounds kind of fantastic. It is when you experience it. And it's one of those things that until you actually do experience it for yourself, you don't understand the beauty of it, the ease of it, the amazing thing that can happen. So I do some of those also with some of the group sessions that I do. And of course, a lot of times it's just a fun thing to do. And I suppose maybe coming up, I'll do one with one of my lives. So if you are able to join me the next time, we can get rid of your favorite indulging snack food that you are ready to give up, and you eat it because you are just habitually eating it, and sometimes you don't even like it anymore, but you're just like so used to eating it that you just do it anyway. So using the emotion code is a wonderful way to just kind of break those nasty old habits that you want to get rid of or need to get rid of or have not been able to get rid of on your own. So it's fun. All right. So I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been wonderful to have you. I know you're watching here on a repeat view. And so connect with me. You can visit me definitely at hollypitis.com. And I will look forward to seeing you next time. I hope you are feeling well and doing well. And if there's anything that I can do